watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey everybody, and thank you for tuning in to On Deck. Really do appreciate it. While you're here, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, and of course with your Atlanta Braves. It's been a minute since we last spoke, just about 2 weeks, and a lot has happened in that time. Since we last spoke, the Braves have gone 5-4, winning series against the Rockies, the Blue Jays, and splitting series against the Reds, or losing one game to the Reds and then splitting a series against the Nationals. Also, we got some injuries to add on to the many of which we already had before the past couple of weeks. Whit Merrifield has now broken his foot after hitting a foul ball into the foot. Reynaldo Lopez left the game a couple of days ago with shoulder inflammation. He was placed on the 15-day injured list. So a lot to be concerned about, right? And really, it's a point now where we're kind of just used to it. It's like, of course, Whit Merrifield has to get hurt and probably will not return for the remainder of the season. Of course, Reynaldo Lopez has to have shoulder inflammation a couple of weeks before the end of the season. Of course, this has got to happen. And I feel like at this point, we're jaded, right? We expect this kind of thing, right? What's next? Who gets hurt next? What's the next setback? And I think at this point, where we are in the playoff standings, where we are just to make it to the wild card, at this point, we're all happy if we make it to the wild card, right? At this point, we just want a chance. And I think this team has proven that not only this year, but over the past few years, that they're capable of doing things that, a lot of people would say that they're not capable of, right? We saw it in 2021. We've seen it over the past couple of years. I mean, they had a phenomenal offensive season last year, one for the record books, literally. So there's nothing to tell me that if they make it to the playoffs, that something crazy can't happen. We saw it with the Diamondbacks last year. We've seen the Phillies make runs before. And we've seen, I would say, the Braves, were one of those underdog teams that made it to the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, got really good at the right time. And I think the Braves are capable of that. Now, what's going to make that happen, right? What's going to change that makes things happen? Well, let's just say the Braves were able to withstand the next couple of weeks and found their wild card spot no matter where that is. All of a sudden, you got Ozzie Albies back, which is an improvement to your infield, is an improvement to your lineup, an improvement, I would say, to the team chemistry in a lot of ways. Then, especially with the loss of Whit Merrifield, then all of a sudden, if you win the wild card series, you just might get Austin Riley back. Things start changing really quickly, and all of a sudden, you start heating up. In a perfect world, that's how this is going to go. Now, in a logical world, a lot of us are going to go, well, Tyler, what is the likelihood that happens? And I'll agree with that. I don't like where the Braves are right now. I don't like it not one bit. But I haven't liked where they've been really all season. And yet they've continued to prove that they still are better than a lot of the teams in Major League Baseball, even as hurt as they are. 2/3 of the starting lineup is out. Right? You have a member now of the starting rotation to add on to Spencer Strider being out, not necessarily for the year, but we don't know where Reynaldo Lopez is going to be going forward. His last outing was pretty scary, I'll admit. Did not like the way he looked at all. But that said, hopefully he goes out for 2 weeks and he's back and he's ready to go for the playoffs. Either way, it's all about making it to the playoffs. Because once you get into the playoffs, the sample size of games is that big. Anything can happen. Your starting rotation, even without Reynaldo Lopez, I feel confident in. I feel better if he's there. But you start out with Fried, Sale, and Morton or Schwellenbach, I'm confident in that against really anybody. That said, Reynaldo Lopez would make me more confident going into the deeper echelon of the postseason. So I don't love where they're at right now. I haven't loved this season. This season has felt just like an ambush of injuries, and every time we get going, there's another one. And every time, we get going, there's just yet another setback in some shape or form. And again, as frustrating as that is, it's doubly frustrating for the guy at the helm of the team and Brian Snicker, and certainly for everybody in the front office. So I don't want to pass that and just act like that's not a big deal too. What Brian Snicker has been able to do and what the front office has been able to do in picking these guys up strategically and putting them into this team, and it's somehow paying off, has been magnificent, right? We've had the stretches where people wanted Brian Snicker fired. We've had the stretches where people want Alex Anthopoulos fired. I told you I didn't agree with it. I still don't, for the record, but I did want to say, think about this. Alex Anthopoulos goes out and gets Whit Merrifield, right, who played terribly for the Phillies. He goes out and gets Gio Urshela, who was an afterthought on the Tigers, of all people. And all of a sudden, you bring him into this culture. You bring him into the Braves. They're playing every day, which makes a difference. And they're performing like they're expected to, especially Whit Merrifield. Whit Merrifield was an all-star just last year. He comes to the Braves. He has a 5-hit day. He becomes a bit of a leader in the clubhouse from all indications. He's a veteran guy. He steps into the shoes of Ozzie Albies, which are big shoes to fill, figuratively, not literally. That said, he was able to fit right in. Gio Urshela, not necessarily living up to expectations in the sense of he's not Austin Riley. I think we all can agree there. Whit Merrifield's not Ozzie Albies. But what Gio Urshela was able to do was provide solid defense at third base, day in, day out, still doing so. Anything he does with the bat is gravy. But what he's been able to do defensively has been phenomenal. Now, that said, the team dynamic has shifted dramatically, right? We were all talking at the beginning of the year about how the Braves are going to come right in. We were talking about, are they going to be able to top their home run totals from last year? Somebody asked me that on the channel. I remember that pretty well. And I said, no, I don't think so, because what they did last year was just astronomical. But I never would have imagined that it got to this point. I never would have imagined that they weren't at least in some resemblance of 2023. They are not. This is a completely, radically different team. And that's because, in large part, due to the injuries, anytime you take out Ronald Acuna, you take him out of a lineup, your team dynamic's going to change. You take speed right off the top. You take a lot of the power. It's going to shift. And finding somebody to replace that power is easier said than done. They tried that with Jorge Soler. So far, Soler, he was never going to be Acuna. I think we all agreed there. He's been limited in the outfield, to say the least. His bat has been okay, but it hasn't been what I think the Braves had hoped for. That said, he also did give you some, a stronger feel in the lineup. You felt better because he was in the lineup, and that may not mean a lot to anybody else, but it provides some security to guys like Matt Olson, to guys like Austin Riley, to those power figures in the lineup, to give them somebody batting behind them that, makes them get good pitches, makes them get some fastballs here and there. You've seen guys like Matt Olson turn it up a notch over the past month or so. But then all of a sudden, Austin Riley gets hurt. Just one more to add to the list. Ozzie Albies gets hurt. Just one more to add to the list. And it's just, you can never, at what point is it insurmountable, right? And the Braves have shown that they're not walking away from it. I never thought they would. A lot of folks, over the past few months have said, just give it up. The Braves are done. Put a fork in them. I've got all the comments, especially from Phillies fans. But I never believed that. I never thought the Braves would just walk away, and they haven't. And they're bleeding from everywhere. It's not just the lineup. It's not just the defense. It's not just the starting rotation. It's also the bullpen. A.J. Minter, season-ending injury. Tyler Matzik, season-ending injury. Just, we can keep going, but there's injuries everywhere, and they're bigger than what a lot of people want to give it credit for. I've been at nauseum this year defending Brian Snicker because, the bullpen decisions, and you can only use the members of the bullpen that you have at your disposal, right? I think all in all, Snit has done a really good job managing as a whole, and I know I'll get some heat for that. That's okay. I just don't believe that there's much anybody could do. There's much anybody could do with what the Braves have in the situations that they've been in. I just don't. And at some point, there's always the saying of what makes a great manager? Great players. And our great players have, for a large part of the year, been absent. So whatever happens this year, if the Braves make it to the playoffs, if they win in a wild card series, if they make it to the NLDS, anything can happen. But it should not be just forgotten how much work, how much the Braves had to battle through this year to make it to that point, whatever point that is. It's a long ways away, but if they make it to the playoffs, they have a lot to be proud of. And as fans, we have a lot to be proud of in this team. So, that's kind of where I'm at on it. There's a lot of time between then and now. We're, of course, now, I can't believe I'm saying this, we're competing with the Mets once again to make it to a wild card series. So, I don't think anybody saw that coming. I don't think anybody, at the beginning of the year anyway, saw that coming. I don't think anybody saw, where the Braves have gotten to coming, but it's where we are. And the Braves are going to have to compete with the Mets. From what I'm looking at, it seems like the Braves have an easier road to the playoffs, even though we are behind the Mets right now. We are currently not in playoff contention. But the Braves do seem to have an easier road to get there, at least from scheduling alone, right? We have to face this series with the Dodgers, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But all in all, the Mets are going to have to play the Dodgers, I think, 4 times. They're going to have to play the Phillies 7 times. And during that stretch, yes, we have the Dodgers right now, but we have a lot of games against the Marlins and the Nationals and so the road is a little easier from a scheduling point of view alone. But all in all, the Braves still have to come win these games, and they got to do it while hurt. So we'll see what happens. If they make the playoffs, I feel good about their chances, especially if they get Ozzie Albies back, especially if they get Austin Riley back. Even if not fully healthy, I feel good about those chances because of who they'll be facing. In a wild card series, I think they'll have kind of an even opponent. Once you get to the division series, it's gonna heighten. But again, with our starting pitching, the offense is not going to be required to do that much. I worry about the bullpen, and I said that at the deadline. If you remember, I thought that our bullpen looked shaky. I thought we could use some more arms, and that was before A.J. Minter got hurt. I just thought that we could use some more high-leverage guys in the pen, and so far that has not been the case. So I'm curious to see what happens over the next few weeks. We will, of course, be here following the season and following along with you. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can follow along, not only with the Braves, but also everything we got going on here at the channel. Really would appreciate it. When we get back, we're going to preview the series coming up against the Dodgers, as well as talk about NL MVP favorites, so make sure to stay with us.
Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC presents a fantastic lineup of popular full-size SUVs and mid-size trucks. Compare side by side. Take your choice from new Chevrolet Tahoes and GMC Yukons, discounted up to $7,000 off. Or Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyons, discounted up to $5,000 off. Experience unmatched durability, powerful engines, and advanced technology. Choose your perfect vehicle today at Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC offers popular full-size trucks with a legacy of strength and durability. Side by side, the new Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra 1500s, discounted up to $13,000 off. Or big, heavy-duty Chevy and GMC 2500s, discounted up to $8,000 off. Rugged durability, powerful engines, and advanced technology. Choose your perfect truck today at Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, thank you for being here tonight. If you would do us a favor, just make sure to like the video, subscribe if you have not already. Also, please do me a favor, and if you haven't, please share this with your friends. Please let them know that we're here. We're trying to grow this channel as big as we can make it before seasons end, and it always helps when you guys let your friends know. If you got a baseball friend in the family, just send them a text, shoot them a link, whatever you got to do. Just get them here. Also, again, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications if you have not already. Let's go ahead and get into this. The Braves, of course, will now begin a 4-game set against the Dodgers. This starts tomorrow at 7:20. It will be played in Atlanta, so if you're around the ballpark, make sure you get your tickets and make sure you are there. Game 1 will be Landon Knack versus Spencer Schwellenbach. That ought to be a pretty good test for young Spencer. Game 2, Battle of the Veterans, Jack Flaherty taking on Chris Sale. That ought to be really good. Game 3, Walker Buehler versus Charlie Morton. We'll see how that one goes. Morton's been hot and cold this year. Hopefully he can be hot on, I guess that would be Sunday. And then on Monday, it will be Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I got that correct, versus Max Fried, which ought to be a pretty good matchup as well. This series I'm pretty excited about. You know, back when we faced the Dodgers early in the year, I don't think we were anywhere close to matching up with them. I think we are, you know, I definitely think we're weaker now than we were then, but I'm curious to see how this goes. Because when we matched up with them early in the year, we had all our guys, but things weren't rolling right. I'm curious to see how our starting pitching does in this series because they're going to be tested against a really good offense with the likes of course, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and Shohei Ohtani. So there is going to be a test there, and I think that'll show us how we're going to match up in the playoffs. This is a playoff-like scenario. It's against an opponent who we very well could see in the playoffs. So it will be a good test. I'm excited to see it. I'm curious to see, again, how we match up. Really curious to see how Chris Sale will match up. I think that will be a good test against, of course, big lefties in Freeman, big lefty in Ohtani, and really just good hitters all the way up and down the lineup. You know, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here, and Spencer Schwellenbach will be an interesting watch just because he is so young. This is a real contender here that he's going to have to face. I'm curious to see how he's done. Every test that they've given him, he's done really well with. So we'll see how it goes. But let me know in the comments what you think about this series coming up against the Dodgers. Do you think the Braves will be able to win the series? Do you think they'll be able to somehow sweep the series? Do you think they'll split, or do you think they'll lose? Let me know down below. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of in reference to the Dodgers, I got a comment from Abel Wall earlier prior to me even coming on. He was here ready to go, waiting for the stream to start. Thank you for that. But he wanted to know, what is my NL MVP favorite? And, you know, here's the thing, right? If you look up the odds right now for who's going to win the National League MVP, Shohei Ohtani tops the list, right? And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, Ohtani is an MVP caliber hitter. He's an MVP caliber player because he's won the MVP before. And I've said before that as long as Ohtani is both pitching and hitting, he's a contender for an MVP every year. The problem is, in 2024, he is not pitching. He is a DH. So for anybody that's going ahead and canceling out Marcell Ozuna because he only plays DH, you have to also cancel out Shohei Ohtani. Now, Ohtani has been a little bit more versatile in the sense of he's gotten a lot of stolen bases. He's a member of the 40-40 club now. And all that, you know, is great. But it's all about, to me, who has done the most for their team. Now, if you look up the odds, it's going to go like this. It's going to go Shohei Ohtani, it's going to go Francisco Lindor with the Mets, and it's going to go Marcell Ozuna. Now, I think anybody here is going to expect me to go Marcell Ozuna, but let me give you the reason. The MVP award, the meaning of the MVP award, most valuable player. Now, a lot of folks in this day and age will say, okay, the most valuable player should go to the best player, right? I agree with that. But to me, the spirit of the MVP award is who meant more to their team, right? And who in the world has meant more to a team than Marcell Ozuna to the Braves in 2024? Nobody. That's the case for Marcell Ozuna, right? His offense has been off the charts. He's had quite a bounce-back year. But more than that, this team would not be anywhere near contention for a playoff spot or anything else if they had gotten rid of Marcell Ozuna last year. They would not be anywhere near it. You could say that, maybe he should win the Comeback Player of the Year award. I don't know. That's usually reserved for players with injuries. But Marcell Ozuna should dang sure be in contention to win the MVP, but I think deserves a little bit more of a look than third in the odds list right now. All due respect to Francisco Lindor, to me it's a two-man race between Shohei Ohtani and Marcell Ozuna. Ohtani, has been a great player. I don't think he's meant as much to the Dodgers as Marcell Ozuna has meant to the Braves. That's just me, and you feel free to disagree with it, but that's how I view it. Would he get my vote? Absolutely he would. That said, it's not just me who feels this way. And this isn't even necessarily in reference to Marcell Ozuna because this falls under the same tree. David Ortiz was quoted this week with saying, the only reason I don't have an MVP is because I'm a DH. So you can't give it to Ohtani because he's just a DH. And I get what he's saying. I, in a large part, agree. But I also think that Ohtani is more versatile than David Ortiz and Marcell Ozuna. I think Marcell Ozuna is pretty close to David Ortiz in his best form. I really think that Ortiz and Marcell Ozuna are a lot closer in style and in ability than Ohtani and Ortiz or Ohtani and Ozuna. I think they're much more similar because Ohtani does have the ability to run. He has the ability, he hits for power, but he gets on base a lot, as does all three of these gentlemen. I think Ohtani, most people are going to look at it like, this is Shohei Ohtani. He's had a great year, and, a lot. It just is what it is. And that's not fair either, right? So all three of the people I'm talking about are DHs. The one guy that's not, technically, is Francisco Lindor. Do I think Lindor should get it? I think he deserves a shot. But again, it's all about, to me, it's all about who has meant more to their team. All these guys, Ohtani, Lindor, Marcell Ozuna, anybody else that's in contention right now, they all, Ketel Marte, they all deserve their case to be displayed and shown. The problem is one of those guys has much more name value and much more, prestige, I guess is the way to put it, because he is on the Dodgers and because of what he's done in years prior. Is that fair in this case? I think not, but I do think Shohei Ohtani will probably win the MVP. But if you're asking me, and it's not because I run a Braves channel, it's because I've watched this team day in, day out, and I have seen what Marcell Ozuna has meant to the team. Not only on the field, but also off the field in the clubhouse. He has helped players rejuvenate their swing. He has been a presence in the clubhouse that has been much needed this year. Because with all the challenges, Marcell Ozuna has been the one steady bat. He has been the one guy who has not skipped a beat. In fact, he's gotten better through this year. And I think he deserves it as much as anybody. But we'll see. Lady Brave says, I think Chris Sale will win the Comeback Player of the Year. I agree with that. I think you're right there, right? Like, Marcell Ozuna is not going to win the Comeback Player of the Year for a lot of reasons, but he's not going to win the Comeback Player of the Year. He played last year. He's definitely been down and he's had a great rise, but I think you're right. I think Chris Sale will win the Comeback Player of the Year, especially if he gets a Cy Young coming from where he came. I don't think there's any arguing that. I think you're absolutely right. We'll see what happens. I think Chris Sale should definitely win the Cy Young Award, but those are postseason questions. Those are, after the season arguments and questions. But for me, I just believe that whoever has meant the most to their team should win the MVP. Take Shohei Ohtani out of LA. That team's still going to make it to the playoffs. They're very healthy. They have a lot of good players. They're fine. Take Marcell Ozuna out of Atlanta. I probably wouldn't be streaming tonight if that were the case, right? So for me, it's a situation where it's all about how you view the award. I view the award as, if you took him out of Atlanta, what would they be, right? And that's been debated for years. Most people say that, I've heard people say that WAR should be the determining factor alone for MVP. I disagree with that. It's one stat. It's a good stat, but it's one stat. I really think you have to take into consideration where the team would be. And if the Braves make the playoffs, I think Ozuna is the MVP. The problem is I don't know if they will or not. And I don't think he would get the votes either way. Some of that is poor name recognition, but the turnaround he's had, again, not only on the field, but off the field, has been astronomical. That said, guys, we're going to go to one more break. When we get back, we're going to talk about a potential free agent signing coming up this offseason, and we'll let you know what we think about it, so stay with us.
Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC presents a fantastic lineup of popular full-size SUVs and mid-size trucks. Compare side by side. Take your choice from new Chevrolet Tahoes and GMC Yukons, discounted up to $7,000 off. Or Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyons, discounted up to $5,000 off. Experience unmatched durability, powerful engines, and advanced technology. Choose your perfect vehicle today at Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC offers popular full-size trucks with a legacy of strength and durability. Side by side, the new Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra 1500s, discounted up to $13,000 off. Or big, heavy-duty Chevy and GMC 2500s, discounted up to $8,000 off. Rugged durability, powerful engines, and advanced technology. Choose your perfect truck today at Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody, and there's been a lot of chatter today about one particular player that's out there that is going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and some of the experts out there in the world have said, hey, this guy would be a perfect fit for the Braves. Some of you probably know who I'm talking about. We're going to talk about it right now. Willy Adames, currently a Milwaukee Brewer, of course, will be a free agent at the end of the year and has been linked to the Braves. And Willy Adames had a great year so far. 252 average, 333 on base, 801 OPS, 30 homers as a shortstop. That's really respectable. There's just one problem. Orlando Arcia is still on the Braves and will be on the Braves through the end of this next season. So what are the Braves to do? All right, because you could upgrade, no doubt about that. Adames, very solid player, but he is going to command a huge salary, $150 million plus across 6, 7, 8 years, I would imagine. Okay, it's going to be a big salary. You compare that to Orlando Arcia's salary. Let's see, his average annual value is $2.43 million. Okay. As opposed to 15, 18 million for Willy Adames. Okay, well, Willy Adames must just have stats that are jumping off the page compared to Orlando Arcia's. We showed you Adames. Here's Arcia. 220 average, that's less. 272, that's less. 633 OPS, that less. And 14 less homers up to this point. Now, I get that. I hear you. Tyler, all those stats are better for Willy Adames. But, keep in mind, here's a couple of things. Is it worth another $14 million to have another 14 homers at this point in the year? I don't think so. Especially when Arcia gives you much better, or great defense, rather. And you can't blame Arcia completely for the year he's had offensively because of all of the holes in the lineup. Arcia performs much better when he has people batting in front of him that are lights out, and you have people batting behind you that are a National League MVP in Ronald Acuna. That has not been the case this year. He's been asked to step up. He's not that kind of a role player, in my opinion. I don't think the Braves ever expected him to be or have to be. So I don't think they're going to walk away from him now. And really, another key factor here is I'm all for upgrading. I'm all for going to get somebody that will make a difference offensively, will make a difference to the structure of the team. I really liked the Sean Murphy move, for example. I really liked the Matt Olson move. If you couldn't get Freddie, I really like that move. So I'm all for all of that. The problem I think you have with Adames, as good of a year as he's had, as good of a player as he is, he's also 29 years old. And I don't know that I want to throw $150 million to $200 million for however many years at a player that's 29 years old. Now, that's not old. I'm not saying it's old. I just don't know if I want to throw that much money at a player of that caliber, but also at a player of that age. I just don't know. And there's reasons for that. If shortstop was our one and only weakness, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it. But the problem with that argument is it's not our one and only weakness, right? We've mentioned earlier, we have injuries everywhere. We don't know up from down because we're covered in so much injury. We don't know what's going on with this team right now. And I don't know that getting a free agent shortstop is going to be the answer to that. That's just my take on it. And really, when you think about it, let's think about how much would an additional shortstop or a replacement for Orlando Arcia in Willy Adames really help the Braves? Well, let's think about what will be back, right? You're going to have a lot of these problems fixed by themselves. You're going to get Strider back. You're going to get Acuna back. You're going to get Austin Riley back, maybe even before next year. Same with Ozzy Albies. You're going to get all these players back. That's 4 major forces on this team back for next year. What's leaving? Well, Morton could retire or leave in free agency. Max Fried could leave in free agency. So you're going to have to address the starting rotation. Now, you'll get Strider back, and Reynaldo Lopez and Schwellenbach have been very good. But that's still, you're going to have to at least get one starting pitcher prior to next year, right? Let's think about the bullpen. Jesse Chavez is a free agent. He could re-sign or he could retire. Or he could leave in free agency. There is always that possibility. AJ Minter is a free agent at the end of the year. You have to consider that. And Adam Duvall, lastly, is a free agent as well. So, to me, you have mainly a pitching problem. You're going to have to get a starting pitcher, more than likely, either by signing Max Fried and or Charlie Morton, or going out to free agency and getting a starting pitcher. You're going to have to get a couple of members of your bullpen. That is a priority number 2. I don't think shortstop is a priority. I don't, especially when you have a guy locked in who, all things considered, has been really solid defensively, and there's no argument there from anybody, I don't think, who, offensively, sure, there's a question mark, but he's meant to be your 9-hole hitter. He was never meant to carry this team offensively. That was not the structure of this team. And it won't be the structure of the team next year. And again, I'm all for improving. I'm all for spending money. It's not my money. I don't care. I'm all for spending money. But I don't think the Braves will do this because I don't think Willy Adames fits the mold here. I think he's a very good player. I think he'll make whatever money he's asking for. Unless he takes a huge salary cut that he will get from another team, somebody will pay him that. I don't see him coming to Atlanta. And again, the only reason I'm talking about this with you guys tonight is because I've seen this out there. This has been a relevant topic today. And I don't think they're going to do it. And there's reasons for that. It's not their structure of the team. It's not how they go about things. And I just don't think they're going to do it. And if they were to do it, if they were to spend money on a big-name free agent and a big-name shortstop, why would they do it, with all due respect, an expensive, aging player? From 29 years old, if he signs a 7-year deal, he's 36 by the end of that. Probably more like 37. So I just don't think this is going to fit that. And Willy Adames is going to get paid. Somebody's going to pay him. I don't think the Braves are going to want to get in a bidding war. I don't think they're going to want to have anything to do with this. And that's just me. I could be wrong. They've proven me wrong before, but I don't think this makes much sense, if at all. Especially, again, when you have a guy like Orlando Arcia, who I know has not won everybody over. I'm fully aware of that. But again, he has been great defensively. He has been okay offensively. It's not like he's hitting below 200 and has 3 homers. No, he's been all right, especially when you consider what the Braves don't have this year offensively. He's been really okay. Who he doesn't have batting behind him. I think Orlando Arcia has been a lot better than a lot of people want to give him credit for. And I don't see them replacing him. Now, if this was a year from now and Willy Adames was out there, you may see it. But the Braves have Arcia locked up and they're only paying him $2 million and some change. they're not throwing that away. They have a good deal there. They had a good deal when they made it, and I don't see them walking away from that. And you may be out there and you may be thinking, well, Tyler, that's stupid. You have an opportunity to go get Willy Adames and replace Orlando Arcia, who is not a superstar. He's not a phenomenal player. He's no Ronald Acuna Jr. He's no Trey Turner. He's not the guy. The Braves have their guys, right? They're Ronald Acuna. They're Austin Riley. They're Matt Olson. Orlando Arcia was never expected to be one of those guys. He was expected to be a guy on this team who can come in and fill the need when necessary. And so far, he has been able to do that. And that's all he was ever expected to be. I expect him to fulfill the remainder of his contract, which ends after next season. And I expect the Braves to point their focus towards starting rotation, bullpen, maybe even an outfielder. But I don't expect them to go after a shortstop. I would be very surprised. Now, guys, that said, we're going to go ahead and toss to another break. When we get back, we're going to go through your comments and let you know what we think about those two.
Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC presents a fantastic lineup of popular full-size SUVs and mid-size trucks. Compare side by side. Take your choice from new Chevrolet Tahoes and GMC Yukons, discounted up to $7,000 off. Or Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyons, discounted up to $5,000 off. Experience unmatched durability, powerful engines, and advanced technology. Choose your perfect vehicle today at Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC offers popular full-size trucks with a legacy of strength and durability. Side by side, the new Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra 1500s, discounted up to $13,000 off. Or big, heavy-duty Chevy and GMC 2500s, discounted up to $8,000 off. Rugged durability, powerful engines, and advanced technology. Choose your perfect truck today at Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you again for being here tonight. Really do appreciate it. If you're out there and you haven't done it already, please do like the video. It really helps us get this out there and get it to a bigger, wider audience, and that only makes this better streams, better things to talk about, and, of course, more opinions in the chat, which we love. We're going to start with the battery. If we have any more Chevrolet commercials, you may have to give one away. Brother, if I could, I'd have one myself. No, really thankful to have Glenn Smith Chevrolet sponsoring this channel. They do a lot for us, and they help make this possible. They bring it to you guys for free, and, of course, they've been a huge addition to the channel. Really do appreciate all of what they do, and, of course, I know commercials get old after a while, but it gives me a break, gives me a chance to get some water, and, of course, it brings money into the channel, which, by the way, you can do through Super Chat. So if you're out there and you want to be front in line, you want to go ahead and get your comment read first, I will do that. I will use Super Chat. You're going to be first in line. So that's how they get priority, and it is what it is. But with that, we're going to start from the top. Of course, I mentioned earlier, Abel Wall was in here. He says, I'm disappointed with the season. What do we do if we don't win a wild card spot? Well, I guess we go home and we watch the rest of the playoffs without the Braves, which this is what, the sixth year? Yet last year was the sixth year in a row where we've watched the playoffs with the Braves in it. So it'll feel weird for sure, but I mean, life goes on, and we'll just get ready for next season if that is to happen. Now, that said, I don't want that to happen. I want us to be able to come here and recap postseason games, win or lose, and the longer this goes on, the better for me, the better for you. But there is a possibility that it won't happen. So at this point, we just have to hope for the best. So we will see. We will see what happens. Let's see. We'll go ahead and go to Lady Braves. Hey, everyone. I'm sad on how this team has been playing all season. Sometimes I just don't want to watch them play because they can't go score any runs. Yeah, it's been tough. You know, I was at the game Sunday. My fiance and I went she drugged me to the stadium, believe it or not. Her second game, Casting Crowns was playing. We got field passes for after the game. Really good experience. But we were at the game, and I was just hoping, like, please, Lord, just give me a win here, because it's been rough. That was actually my first game this year as a fan. Every other time I've been has been for work, which of course has saved a couple dollars, but in large part it's been work. I've been going and recapping games for a local news station here in town. So, I was glad to go as a fan, and they were able to walk it off, I think, on an infield hit, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I mean, like, it's been a tough go, no doubt about it. It has been hard to watch. So hard to watch that even Chipper Jones came out and spoke the other day. I know there's going to be some comments about that, and people probably want to know what I think about it. I agree with him. I don't think there's any disputing what he said. And I certainly am not going to come on here and talk about the Hall of Famer Chipper Jones and say, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. The Braves are doing just perfectly fine. The win column says otherwise. The approaches at the plate say otherwise. And his Hall of Fame plaques say otherwise. They have not been what they need to be. And it's not just the Braves. His frustration was more than just relegated to Atlanta. It was also the game as a whole, the shifts. And I hear this a lot, so I really wasn't surprised when I heard Chipper say it, right? I talk to guys a lot from his generation, from I hate to say it, the generation from when I was a kid. I hear it a lot. Johnny Estrada talks about the approach at the plate. Leo Mazzoni, talks about the way pitching is handled and just the shifts that have been made. And, a lot of that can be taken as old guys, yelling at kids in it, get off my lawn kind of deal, but I don't take it as that. These are experts in their craft, especially guys like Leo Mazzoni, Chipper Jones. These are Hall of Fame caliber, coaches and former players who know their stuff. They know it better than a lot of other folks. And to me, I view it as this. Why would I trust a guy who's currently playing over a guy who used to play? They're going to say, well, the game has changed. It's high velocity pitching and all this. Well, I used to watch the game, and the game's best pitchers were all pretty much healthy. Well, you didn't see a lot of these injuries back then. I wonder why that is. You used to see a lot more offense back in the day. I wonder why that is. The game, to me, I love baseball. I will watch it no matter what. I will always say that. But I can understand why a lot of the veterans of the game, and it's not just former Braves. I mean, we've seen Cal Ripken say it. We've seen Billy Ripken say it. We've seen Harold Baines on MLB Network say it. It's a lot. Johnny Bench. It's a lot of former players who talk about where the game is going. And I agree with it. It's hard for me sometimes. Bases loaded, 1 out. You're down by 1 in the 9th inning. And you don't drop a bunt, and you got, for example, Ender Inciarte at the plate. Now, come on, right? I love Ender as much as anybody. You can take the bat out of his hand for 1 AB, and we just don't see a lot of it. It's where the game has changed. It's part of it, and it is what it is. But I think a team that embraces some of the old ways would arguably do better than a lot of these teams. And I say that the Braves were one of those teams. They were incorporating a lot of old school tactics. That's why Brian Snitker got so much credit back in the day, because he was able to weave and use analytics, sure, but not to the point where it was controlling every move. You guys remember when Kevin Cash took Blake Snell out of a game because he quote-unquote hit his quota? It was the postseason. He was throwing like a no-hitter, like a shutout. He was doing great. And he just felt like if Blake Snell had stayed in another inning, the Rays probably would have won that game. And that's the part where we don't have there. How do I put this? You know what? I have a perfect way to put it. I saw a post earlier, Braves on TBS, who's on Twitter. Great follow, by the way. I've followed him a long time. They followed me back today, finally, probably because I retweeted this. But there was a clip of Bobby Cox getting ejected, and dropping every word under the sun you can imagine. But it made me think, like, man, you just don't see that anymore. And I love automatic replay. I thought it was a great addition. It has its quirks and problems, but I would rather the correct result be on the field. I agree with that. But you just don't have that kind of soul in the game anymore. With like Bobby Cox coming out there, a crotchety old man yelling at an umpire, getting thrown out of a game, right? You don't see that very often. And it's because of automatic replay, of course. And I'm okay with losing that if the right result on the field stands. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is losing everything about the game that made it special, right? I didn't like 3-batter minimum. I wasn't a fan of that. I've aged into it. I've gotten used to it, but I still don't necessarily believe that it was the right move. I didn't agree with putting a DH in both leagues. I've kind of grown out of that. I love the fact that we have Ozuna if we're going to have one, but I still, the old school in me, makes that tough. It makes that connection tough. That's just rules. The approach to the game is what has changed. And that's the part that I completely agree with Chipper on. It's when your only goal is to hit it off, out of the park, it changes the dynamic of the game, right? Because you're going to strike out way more. You're going to pop it up way more. And sure, you may have 40, 50 homers, but your average is going to be, below 200. Remember Kyle Schwarber, I think, had a batting average below 200 and had 40 homers or something crazy a couple of years ago. So it's the game has changed, and I'm okay with that. I'm 25, and the game is, in a lot of ways, passed me by, and I'm 25 years old. I can't imagine being 50 or 60 or 70 and seeing how much the game has changed in this much time. I mean, we're talking changes that have been made in the last 5 years, not changes that have been integrated and thought about and how are we going to do this. I couldn't care less if the bases are bigger. I don't care about that. I do have a problem with the throw over rule. Now, in large part, that's probably why Ronald Acuna won an MVP, if we're fair. But I don't love that rule. I don't love it. It encourages base running. Okay, you want to encourage base running, change the dynamic of the game back. Don't get rid of the shift, make players hit it the other way, right? And we've lost that. And so I can imagine being a guy like Chipper who has years put in, 19 of them plus, in the minors. I can imagine being that guy and going, man, it's hard for me to coach this because this isn't the game that I played. My mentality is I want to get that runner home any and all ways possible, right? I want to go flat through the ball. I don't want to focus on launch angle. That kind of a thing. I can imagine it being hard to communicate with a lot of young players if all they've ever been taught is high velocity or launch angle or whatever. I can just see that being a problem, So I wasn't surprised at all. I've heard it before. That was a conversation, to be honest with you. I've probably had that exact conversation with about 5 former players, and of varying ages. Some Chipper's age, some younger than Chipper, some older significantly than Chipper. So I'm not surprised at all. And here's the thing, right? As much as they're former players, they're fans. They want to watch the games, right? They want to watch the games and enjoy the games. And because they want to live through these players now. They can't play anymore, but they want to see, hey, this game is still carrying on like it should. And you have some great players that are playing like, I don't know, I would have played back then, or I would play now, right? And they don't have a lot of that. You have some great talent, but, some phenomenal talent that should be some of the greatest ever. But because they are so, everything is almost, it's computerized, literally. You have tablets in the clubhouse that are looking at every little analytic. Speaking of tablets, did anybody see Soler? That said, you have tablets that are looking at every little detail, every little nook and cranny in a swing. And there's positives to that, but there's also a lot of negatives. And to me, the biggest negative has been that it's taken the soul out of the game. That's my opinion. So in terms of what I thought about what Chipper said, I completely agree. I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference. It'll make more of a difference coming from Chipper than it will from me, but I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. I think the game is what it is, and hopefully one day it cycles through and we're back to hitting runs and stealing bases like crazy and that kind of thing. Corey Carter says, Tyler, just like I do, there is a difference between players returning to the lineup and contributing to the lineup. You don't just jump back in and start hitting. I don't disagree, but if you're going into the playoffs, who do you want to have at second base? Ozzie Albies or Luke Williams? He might not jump right back in, but I'll take my chances with Ozzie. That's kind of my point there. Let's see. Jake Hobby says, I hate to say it, but I'd rather we miss the playoffs and get everyone or most everyone healthy for next year. Don't think we make it past wild card how we are playing right now. I've heard that, and I've even flirted with the thought myself, like, do I really want to make the playoffs if, if it's just going to end in a heartbreak? Do I really want to do that to myself? And the answer is yes, I want to do that to myself. I want the biggest heartbreak ever because that means we've at least made it to the playoffs. Everybody wants a chance at the dance. Everybody. Every team, because you have a chance. And I don't want to let a year roll by where I still have Max Fried, I still have I don't have Ronald Acuna, but I have all these players that are still here, though some of them may not be healthy. I don't want to let a year roll by without a chance in the playoffs. You will never hear me say that. Now, I've thought about it, that little passing thought of, do I really want this to happen? They're going to go, they might get swept, Okay, so what? We made it. We had a chance. It didn't go our way, but I don't want to sit at home and go, man, I sure wish I was watching the Braves right now. No, I want them to be there. I want them to have a shot. I hope I can change your mind on that. Let's see. D. Carroll says, this season has been snake bit from the start. Just one of those years. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Corey Carter says, never seen a year like this. Proud of the job the organization has done as a whole. Yeah, and that's the part where it's like, I don't want to call people casuals, as my good buddy Josh Pate does, but you have casual fans who watch the games, and, like any other fandom, we start losing, and it's fire the manager, fire the GM, fire everybody. Just get rid of them. Just get them all gone. And that's not how you fix a problem, especially when you diagnose the problem and you go, okay, well, 2/3 of the roster is on the shelf, so the organization has done a great job in managing the problems. If we had half the problems that we do, half the injuries that we do, I think we're in the playoffs, no question. Problem is, they kept on happening. It's almost like, can you guys wrap yourselves in bubble wrap and just don't take any unnecessary bumps and bruises. Just if you got to slide, forget it. Just forget it. Just don't do it. We need you here. It's like a quarterback at practice at this point. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Tyler, did you see the story that was posted about the Tyler Matzik trade? Tyler asked AA if it would be okay to let Luke know he was joining him in San Fran. AA told him to hold off. I did not see that, but I'm not surprised. Those guys are actually really good buddies. So, when I interviewed Matzik a few years ago, I also interviewed Luke Jackson literally the same day in the same building, 5 minutes apart from each other. They're both super nice, but they're there together, so it doesn't surprise me. They're good friends, which I think we all could have figured anyway. I think AA telling Tyler to hold off, especially knowing that Luke Jackson was coming, is pretty funny. Let's see. The Doors says, I would have preferred Freeman and Contreras. Langoliers is too similar to what we already have, a streaky power hitter. So, okay. Miguel says, Alex Anthopoulos made his worst mistake ever for trying to re-sign Freeman, plus trading Contreras and Shea Langoliers. Well, they did try to re-sign Freeman. They did. I think that would have been fine. I would have been just fine getting Freeman back. I think at that point we all wanted Freeman back. In terms of getting Olsen, what are you to do? If what I believe is that Freddie's agent had something to do with it, but cannot confirm nor deny. If that's the case, you have to adjust accordingly. And I think they did so with Olsen. And a lot of people have criticized Olsen, saying it was a garbage move. We shouldn't have done it. They're forgetting really quickly that the Joker hit 54 homers last year. So, you can criticize it. You can say that, oh, it's not a move worth making. But don't forget where you came from, where this dude was mashing last year. Let's just not forget that. A lot of folks in the chat tonight, really do appreciate that. Bauer Thomas says, we're not making the playoffs. I'd be willing to make a wager on that. I don't know what for, but I would definitely be willing to make a wager. Let's see. The Door says Braves will need to address starting pitching with no Morton and no Fried next season. Arcia's value includes what his low salary allows Double A to spend at other positions. Precisely. Thank you. Let's see. A lot of folks in the chat tonight. Let's go ahead and skip down to The Door. It says Rob Manfred wants baseball to be something other than baseball. I remember when NBA Commissioner Adam Silver asked why Manfred wanted to change baseball so much. I agree. And the thing is, it's not just Manfred, right? If you took Manfred out of that spot, which in 5 short years that will happen, if you took Manfred out of that spot, they're just going to put some other schmuck in a suit as the MLB commissioner, right? So it's not just him. The commissioner works for the owners, right, which are 30 of the richest people you can imagine who just want to continue being the richest people you can imagine. That's all it really comes down to. If you don't believe me, look at Oakland right now. That's all you got to see. So if that's the case, you're working for them. So you're not working for the average consumer. You're working for literally rich folks to continue being rich. So he wants things to cost more. He wants, they have a certain thing they want, right? He does not work for the players. That's why they have a players union. It is what it is. So I'm curious to see what happens. I don't think Rob Manfred is exactly a good commissioner. I don't think he's a good commissioner at all. I don't think that's even a controversial statement anymore. And I'll say that as a guy who was really excited to go to the All-Star game a few years ago, and it was, ripped out from underneath me. But anyway, looking forward to that next year. That said, I think it can be worse. I definitely think that. So I'm curious to see who his replacement is. But, a lot of people hated Bud Selig back in the day. I think anybody at this point would take Bud Selig any day over Rob Manfred. So the problem Rob Manfred has, and I don't know why I'm sounding off on this right now, but you've got me stirring. I never really had a problem with Rob Manfred. I thought he was just kind of a typical commissioner. Like, okay, this is, the hand we're dealt. This is what we got. Let's just see where it goes. And then, some comments were made after the Astros thing where, why do you want me to take the trophy? It's just a piece of metal. It's like, that's literally what everybody here is trying to get. And I understood what he was trying to say, but it doesn't come off well from him. You don't feel like, at least with the NBA commissioner, you feel like he loves the game. I don't feel like Rob Manfred loves the game. I don't. I wish he did, but it just doesn't feel that way. And it's universal for baseball fans, right? Roger Goodell gets booed every year at the NBA draft. That happens. But you don't sit here and think, well, Roger Goodell doesn't care about the game, Rob Manfred has made the most changes to the game in its history in 10 years. So, that's my thoughts on it. Yeah, the battery says a returning from injury, insert injured Brave here, can perform as well as a replacement, even if he's rusty. I agree with that. Let's see. Miguel Freaka, here we go. The thing is that the Braves farm system is not good anymore because of Alex Anthopoulos. He only saves money for Liberty Media. Miguel, I love you. I love you. I love you. However, as Corey says, we are 6th in payroll. 6th out of 30. We're doing very good in terms of how much money we're spending. Farm systems are not bought and paid for. Okay, that's not how they work. You don't pay for farm systems. You trade for farm systems. Do you know what we would have to trade right now for us to have a good farm system? Our team. That's how we got a good farm system, was because we traded Craig Kimbrell, B.J. Upton, Justin Upton, anybody you can think of on that 2014 team, we pretty much let go. So my point of that is, would you rather have a good farm system or a good major league product? I'll take the major league product. It is what it is. Jake Hobby, you had to do it. You had to do it. We have gone an hour and 6 minutes, and I didn't have to answer a question about Florida State. And you're going to make me answer a question about Florida State. I should ban you. I'm not going to, but I should ban you for that. I'm not feeling good. I really don't know how I should feel. I haven't been able to watch any of the games. I've kept up with it, but I haven't been able to watch any of the games. I've actually been on the road. First week I was at Georgia Clemson covering that game, and then last week I was at Auburn watching them fall apart. So this week will be my first week, unfortunately. I guess I did see the game in Ireland, but it is what it is. In terms of how I'm feeling, I'm not feeling too good. I think, and I'm not a college football guy. You ought to go check out Josh Pate for that kind of stuff. But I can give you an FSU fans review of the season so far. I think that the loss to Georgia last year really took a lot out of the momentum that was growing for Florida State. I think, I didn't think we should make the college football playoff, to be honest with you. I understood why it happened that way. I still think they got screwed, but I understood it, if that makes any sense. I get why the logic was there. I still thought they kind of got the short end of the stick, to say the least, but I definitely, I understood the logic. Now, that said, if I was Florida State, I would not have played in that Orange Bowl. And as a guy who was at the Orange Bowl, I covered the Orange Bowl. I drove down to Miami, and I was there. I had a front row seat to it. I think I would have made the right call there, because to me it would have said more if Florida State, as a recruit, said, "Oh, we're undefeated, and you don't want us to play here, and you got teams that have lost games." I wouldn't have played that game. I think it would have helped you recruiting more. I think it would have helped you keep the momentum, and it would have created an environment where, oh man, this guy, as a recruit, I'm going, oh man, this coach is, lack of better term, he's got a pair, right? And then they go play the game, and I don't remember the final score, but let's just look it up. Yeah, 63-3. We got a field goal. So ever since then, I haven't really felt great about the Seminoles. I think Mike Norvell's the right guy, but, it is what it is. Corey Carter. Double A does such a good job at signing guys that he gets criticized for it. Yeah, you remember all the hate about Ozzie Albies' contract? The guy's getting $7 million. He's got an aquarium that's the size of my house. But yeah, he's not making enough. He got criticized for that because he landed these guys. So, it is what it is. Guys, I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. Just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Really do appreciate it. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for hitting the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here on deck. And of course, thank you for watching the Atlanta Braves. Also, a big thank you to our sponsor, Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. If you need a vehicle, they are the place to go. They will leave you walking out with a smile. So again, thank you to them, and thank you for all the support that they've given us. Thank you to all the support you've given us. And remember, again, to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you haven't already, go follow me on social media, Twitter and Instagram with that tag below, at Tyler Redmond TV. Would love to chat with you there. If you message me, I like to post links to stuff I post here. I like to give polls. I give my thoughts on games. So it's good. It's a good follow to make. Why not? But with that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here at On Deck.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.